Okay, we made it to chapter 5. You made it through 4. A lot of information there. Now in chapter 5, we're going to introduce you to conditionals and also Booleans. So here in this particular section of chapter 5, we're going to talk about Booleans. So let's hop into the curriculum. 5.1 Booleans. One of the core features of any programming language is the ability to conditionally execute a segment of code. This means that a program will run a segment of code only if a given condition is met. Example, consider a banking application that can remind you when a bill is due. The application will notify you that a bill is due soon, but only if the bill has not already been paid. The condition for the above example is send a notification of an upcoming bill only if the statement the bill is unpaid is true. In order to state something like this in JavaScript, we need to understand how programming languages represent true and false. Okay, this is a good place for me to introduce you to binary numbers. First, you don't need to know or understand binary numbers to be a software developer, but it will really help if you do. So, a binary number is a base 2 system. You already understand base 10, which is called decimal, because we count 0 to 9. And then we have placeholders. You understand that. You have the ones, the tens, the 100s. Well, it's the same way in binary numbers. We'll go deeper into that when I introduce binary numbers videos to you. I'm creating those videos now so I can help you understand binary numbers. Now, a binary number is a bit. So one binary number is a bit. So 0 is a bit, 1 is a bit. Now you may be wondering, how is it possible that we can create all these complex algorithms? How your devices work? All of it uses binary numbers. So that brings me to the next point. You're going to hear a lot about high level and low level. High level we mean is high level language and low level language. A high level language is human readable. That means you can read it and I can read it. But low level language means machine readable, meaning it can only read bytecode broken down into zeros and ones. Understand, it takes 8 bits to make 1 byte. And a bit is really a switch. That's what it is. So let's break it down to something you understand. You know what a light switch is. And you understand that a bit is a switch now. A bit has 2 elements. It has a state and a value. So 0 is what represents off and also false. 1 represents on and also true. So we're talking about true and false. So that switch, when you go into a room and you turn on that light switch, you just introduce the state of on. When you turn it off, it's in the state of off. You already understand state. And this is what we're talking about in the curriculum when we read about the banking application. It's talking about a state. And Booleans represent a state. Now, we always want to read the documentation. So let's go over to good old Google and let's type in truthy. And we want to do right here. We want to go to truthy, MDN. And this is what truthy means because we do truthy and falsy. Understand this. In JavaScript, a truthy value is a value that is considered true when encountered in a Boolean. Context, all values are truthy. Understand this because understanding conditionals can be very confusing, but understand that all of the conditions are truthy. They're all true unless they are defined as falsy. And that is all values are truthy except false. That's falsy. 0 is falsy, and we understand that because the value of 0 is the state of 0 is either false or off. -0 is falsy. 0n is falsy. An empty string is falsy, null, undefined, and not a number. Now, here are the examples of truthy values in JavaScript, which will be coerced to true in Boolean context and thus execute the if block. What does that mean? When we are checking a condition of something, when we can check that condition, if it's true, it's going to run a block of code. And here are the examples. True, an empty object is truthy. An empty array is true. 42, which is a number, is true. A string with a 0 in it is true. But if without the strings, if it's 0, it's false. See the difference here. Just like false, if it's inside of the quotes, then it's true because an empty quote is false. A quote with anything in it is true. Remember that. We have the date object there. -42. All of these are true. But when we get to the false, that's when we have we understand this is what makes it false. These false 0, -0, 0n, string, null, undefined, and not a number. And so when we look at these, the logical and operator, it tells us true, and we'll go over the double ampersand later on, and a string dog. It's going to return dog. It's true. This will make sense later on. But I wanted you to see this because this is important to understand. Because when we start getting into Booleans and then conditionals, like I said, and for loops, this is where it kind of hems you up a little bit. But we want to eliminate that by getting you prepared to accept what we're about to teach. So now, we made it to this point. We understand that a Boolean is true or false. And we understand that 0 and 1 represents true and false. Keep that in mind because later on, that 0 and 1, that value is going to make sense when it gives you back an output, when you're checking something truthy or falsy. Now, we made it to this point. We're getting ready to go into the next section. Bookmark this video, come back, look at it later to make sure you get an understanding of this. Again, don't stop here. First, get through the whole entire chapter. Then something you didn't understand, come back and study it later because you may get the answer later on. So the more you practice, the more you improve. Okay? See you in the next video.